Hi,
Hi.
how are
Good.
you?
How are you?
Good. I'm
Yeah.
glad this worked.
Yeah. First time.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Figured we would just start with you introducing yourself and just jumping kind of right into your story.
Yeah, so my name is Rebecca, like you said. I guess my surrogacy story kind of started when I was 16. I was diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, wow.
Um, I went through treatment. Well, I guess it started a little later, but I went through treatment, and then I relapsed when I was 19, and at that point I had a hysterectomy. So I always knew from 19 that surrogacy was my path to having kids.
Oh,
At that was, my path. It wasn't married or anything. Um, and so luckily the show Friends was popular at the time and kind of, made it look so easy and showed me, kind of taught me what surrogacy was
mhm.
about. And I said, okay, if Phoebe could do it, her brother could do it, then
For sure.
that's our path to kids too. So we had a great first journey. We have a 5-year-old son. As a result, we were so lucky. We had one embryo, took
Oh,
on the first time, um, had a great, just the whole journey was amazing. And now we've been trying for a sibling. We've done 4 transfers so far and have yet to complete our family. So we're kind of just in the trenches of trying to get that one last baby, so that our family's complete.
wow, that is definitely a lifelong journey that you've been on. How did it feel when you found out that surrogacy was your only pathway to parenthood?
So I was 19 at the time. I was in college. Kids were probably the last thing.
Right.
I knew that it was possible. I didn't know anyone with infertility at the time, so I didn't even know, the show Friends made it look so easy. I didn't know the heartbreak that could come with it, or, the positive stories. I just knew, okay, there's a way to have kids. I'll deal with that in the future. My biggest concern was I was in college. I wanted to be able to go visit my friends at school because I was home for the semester. So I, it was sad, but I was in a very different stage of life, and didn't know, I felt like I would deal with it when I had to, and now
Right.
wasn't the time.
So you had mourned the loss of having that be your pathway from a young age.
Yeah, I mean, I did mourn it when I was in college, but I feel like more as I grew older and, saw friends having kids, siblings having kids, it became more present. But
Right.
there was some mourning, in college, but I also wasn't waiting to have babies at that point. So it wasn't, I don't want to say that big of a loss, but it
No.
wasn't a loss at the time. It was something that I said, okay, we have a path to kids, I can still have my own children, and we'll deal with that when we have
Right.
to. So,
Can you take us through your first surrogacy journey of how it all came to be, the path that you took, how you found your surrogate, how the whole experience kind of was for you?
yeah, so we had honestly just the most amazing experience. We were tried to stay away from using an agency just because of the cost that is
Mhm.
associated with agency. We really wanted somebody that we had some connection to, knew somebody or something. We didn't want to do a complete stranger. So we were very private about our journey at the time. But one of my friends posted on Facebook about us needing a surrogate. One of her friends saw the post. We connected. We met her and her husband, and it was like a match made in heaven.
Oh,
So yeah, we met. We kind of both learned as we were going. Now I look back and I'm like, we had no idea what we were doing at the time, but it all worked out. We transferred, and now we have a 5-year-old as a result. So it was an interesting journey. You usually a journey to a baby is between a person and their spouse, not between a person, a spouse, and another couple.
right.
So it was, we learned a lot. We experienced a lot of things that you probably don't think you'll experience in life. It's different to see someone else give birth to your child,
Right.
but in the end, of our son, and that's what's most important. So, um, we're lucky that he's here.
Right. What was delivery day like for you? How was that experience for you?
Um, it was it was interesting. It was also emotions. Had a planned induction on a Saturday. On Thursday night, we had just finished work. We were taking Friday off. Thursday night, our surrogate called us and said, "I'm going to the hospital. I'm contracting." So we went there. She was only a couple of centimeters dilated, so they said we could send you home, or that Friday she was 39 weeks. So they're like, we can wait till midnight and we can, start the induction now. So that's what we ended up doing. And it was, obviously a long process. We started not very ready, at all. And then just took some time. And it was hard. I think the hardest thing for me and my husband was there was a girl that was in so much pain for us, but there was nothing we could do about it. So it was really hard to watch someone that we'd become friends with, be in, I don't want to say agony, but, be in pain. And we kind of just sat there and didn't know what to do. And there, at the same time, there wasn't much we could do. So I think that was the hardest part. Just, we didn't know how to help her and what we could do to make it better. She had the support of her husband before, but it's just like, you're kind of helpless.
Right.
We just helpless until, our son was here. So, and then, everyone was happy and like that. But yeah, we just felt it was just a feeling of helplessness and what can we do? And, really there was nothing. We just time had to wait.
Yeah. So you went on an independent journey and you're pursuing another independent journey.
Correct.
Now.
Yes.
Was there anything that you alluded to it before, like you're just learning as you were going? Did anything come up on your journey that really surprised you?
I don't think there was anything. There is, when in Illinois you file for parentage before before the baby is born, so that our names go on the birth certificate and everything. It wasn't a surprise, but we filled out the forms and we sent them to our lawyer. Usually you have a lawyer fill them out, but we did it ourselves. And then our lawyer's like, "No, you have to do this." And we're like, "Oh, okay, sorry. Thanks for your help." So I think it was just our doctor offered like different tests and we were like, "We don't know. Sure, let's do it," because we only had one embryo and we were like, we'll kick ourselves if, this doesn't work. And we didn't take that test. So I've learned so much from going through it and just from Facebook groups and Google, sometimes. But it's amazing what you can find from other people. And I wish I'd had the Facebook resource. I didn't know there was these Facebook groups to join at the time. So I think joining these groups now has kind of prepared me for all the different scenarios. Obviously, anything can happen, but I think that has prepared me for the future of what surprises, might happen.
So what were the main resources that you did lean into? Google and
our first journey, we really relied on our clinic and our lawyers to kind of guide us through. And luckily we had great ones of both. Now there's so many Facebook groups, and you obviously have to take the Facebook groups with a grain of salt. There's, there's some interesting people in them, but they have files in there. You can ask a question and people respond, and there's just so much knowledge out there of people who have been through it before that you can connect with, in the palm of your hand. Yeah. So I feel very much more prepared going through with our experience, and then also with just so many other people I've connected with, knowing so much more.
Right, that sense of community definitely makes it a little bit better, right?
Exactly, yeah.
What resources do you think need to be out there? Like, if you could create a resource for somebody going through surrogacy, what would you include in it? What is something that you wish was around or that you wish you knew?
So one of the biggest questions I see in the Facebook groups is, I want to be a surrogate, or I have a surrogate, and where do I start? So many people just don't know what to do, So I feel like also when we were talking to surrogates, a lot of people love the idea of surrogacy, but then when you kind of the details, they're like, I have to give myself shots, they kind of go running. So I created kind of a detailed step-by-step, not process, but just a detailed list of, here's what you have to do. You have to go to the doctor X amount of times ish. while you're getting ready for the transfer. There will be a lawyer, there will be this. So something like that would have been helpful. And I think it's still helpful just for the education of people who want to be surrogates or who are going through surrogacy. So they know what they're getting into. A lot of people think it's really easy to get pregnant because they had great natural pregnancies, but there's a lot more that goes into a surrogacy and IVF pregnancy that people don't anticipate. So just having something written on paper, I think would be helpful for intended parents, for surrogates, just so everyone is kind of on the same page and, knows what
Yeah,
they're for.
definitely. Um, I have so many other questions that I'm trying to pick what the next one should be. Um, how how did your surrogate feel about the journey? How much contact did you have with her? What was kind of your relationship with her while she was going through her pregnancy?
So I went to all the appointments. I was lucky enough that our surrogate lived about an hour away, so I was able to,
Oh, nice.
my work schedule that I could be there. So we usually saw her about once a month at the appointments. We did, become friends with them. So we did see them socially as well. We became friends with her family as well. So at least once a month during the pregnancy, if not more. After we've had her, she's been at our son's first, birthdays each year. We see them once or twice a year, probably just with, she has kids, obviously of her own, their schedule just gets hard to get together. But I feel like if it wasn't for surrogacy, these are people we would be friends with anyway. So,
Nice.
so yeah, we try to see them as much as we can. Yep.
Just last question, what would you leave our community with, just like a pearl of wisdom, if anybody here watching is thinking about pursuing surrogacy or is on a surrogacy journey? What kind of words of wisdom or advice would you give to them?
For the intended parents, I would do as much research as you can, really get to know the ins, outs, everything. Same with the gestational surrogates. There is just so many different paths to gestational surrogacy and so many different things that can happen, like really educating yourself on what you're getting into. Luckily our journey went great, but there's just so many things that you don't know until you go through it. So, or, you do your research. So I would say do as much research as you can, talk to people who have been through it. And yeah, just get all that education before, jumping into something.
That is very good advice. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time. And we wish you all the best on your sibling journey.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Bye.
Have a good day.
You too.